Hello students. So after completion of the initial part of protista, kingdom protista, that is photosynthetic protist, and in that photosynthetic protist we have completed with the chrysophytes, dinoflagellates and euglenids. Now we will be talking about a slime mold in this lecture. When we talk about slime mold are known as consumer decomposer protist. They are known as consumer decomposer protist. Now, if we talk about this slime mold, they are saprophytic protist as well. Why they are saprophytic protist? Because they mainly carry out in the particular nutrition way by the saprophytic mechanism. In this, we will study that there is a formation of one multinucleated mass of protoplasm and that is surrounded by a plasma membrane, and that mass is known as plasmodium. So before studying this plasmodium in detail, we first should note down some of the initial general characteristic of this protestant fungi. Okay. So that due to their nature, if you talk, then they were included in class Myxomycetes of fungi in two kingdom classification. See, in two kingdom classification, they have placed in class Myxomycetes of fungi. Okay. Now they are called mycetozoa as well, as they are closely related to animals. And some of the mycologists, fungal scientists, included them in gymnomycota. And because of their nature, they are also called protestant fungi. They are also called protestant fungi. Now, when we talk about the general characteristics of this lichen, it is found that they are free living. They are found to be free living and usually creep over the debris. They are found to be creeping over debris. And this debris, if we talk, they are of fallen leaves and some rotting logs of wood. Now it is known that they have naked protoplast, means cell wall is absent. Naked protoplast means cell wall is absent in vegetative stages. Then, if you talk about the particular reproductive character, it is known that cellulosic cell wall is found in spore, and spore is a reproductive stage. So in the reproductive stages, cell wall is present. And apart from this, there is a formation of fruiting body. And this presence of fruiting body is fungal like character. So this vegetative stages, if you say they have cell wall is absent, it is animal like character. Then in reproductive stages their cell wall is present, that is plant like character. Means this slime mold forms a link between plant, animal and fungi. Okay, so I hope you are getting these points, what they are saying to say about the slime mold. Then, if you talk about more, the spore are particularly dispersed by air current. One of the important thing that spore are extremely resistant and survive for many years in diverse condition, but the spore are dispersed by air current. Dispersed by air current. Now later on, reproduction was studied, and when we talk about the reproduction, in case of this particular slime mold, the reproduction is of two types, that is sexual and asexual. Sexual and asexual. And this, particularly after reproduction, we know that the slime molds are divided into two groups. If we talk about slime mold, the slime mold are divided into two groups, where they are of two types. One is acellular slime mold, and this acellular slime mold are also known as plasmodial slime mold. And apart from this, another one is the cellular slime mold, and the cellular slime mold are also known as communal slime mold. So, when we talk about acellular and cellular slime mold, how these two types are classified and what they mean, if that we want to study, then we will talk about acellular and cellular one by one. We will also study that why acellular are named as plasmodium, why cellular are particularly known as a communal slime mold. Okay, that we are going to study in the next slide. So if we talk about first acellular slime mold, acellular slime mold. Now, when we talk about acellular slime mold, in this somatic body is free living, and in this that somatic body is multinucleated body, and that is known as plasmodium. So now in this acellular slime molds, what happens? Here, suppose we have a zygote. Okay, suppose we have a zygote which is diploid. Now in this zygote, karyokinesis occur and cytokinesis does not occur. So one large body is going to be formed which is multinucleated. So this represents what? Nucleus. So this multinucleated body is known as plasmodium. And if we talk about the characteristic of this plasmodium is multinucleated. It is multinucleated, naked, diploid mass known as plasmodium. They move by pseudopodia, but when there is some unfavorable condition, they form footing body. And multiple footing body like this form over the particular plasmodium. And this is a plasmodium, but over which this footing body is formed. After footing body, within the footing body, spore are produced. So this footing body break and spore are released, and this spore have cell wall. Now this spore are released in footing body by meiosis. So when spore are released, these spore are haploid. Now they germinate. They germinate. The spore is going to germinate. The spore have a cell wall, and this spore is going to germinate and form myxomoeba, that is non-motile cell, or swarm cells. When we talk about the swarm cells are motile. So they look like this. So these are the flagella. But these myxomoeba cells are like this. So now this two myxomoeba will fuse and form zygote, or swarm cell will fuse and form zygote. So this is showing or means either these two are going to fuse or either these two are going to fuse. One myxomoeba and one swarm cell cannot fuse, so this type of fusion is known as isogamy. And this is a acellular slime mold life cycle. Now here we want to note down that the isogamy is occurring in vegetative cell, that is plasmodium cell wall is absent, so it is known as naked, it is diploid. Cell wall is present in the particularly haploid structure, that is which one? A spore, and that is cellulosic. Now this acellular means they are losing their cellular identity. See, usually the cellular means one cell and one nucleus, but here it is losing its cellular identity by developing the multinucleate structure and further so on. So they are known as acellular, but within that the plasmodium is formed. So this acellular slime mold are also known as plasmodium slime mold. So in this, if you talk, we can write some of the examples of acellular slime mold. And if we write some of the examples of acellular slime mold, they are Pfizer and Pfizerella. Pfizerum and Pfizerella. And fully and fully. So this is the acellular slime mold. The next one is cellular slime mold. And when we talk about cellular slime mold, they are also known as communal slime mold. Why? Because in this there are some cells which are known as amoeboid cells. Amoeboid cells. And amoeboid cells are formed by the division of myxoid cells. Now, this amoeboid cells fuse in a such a way that they form a structure known as pseudoplasmodium. And when they form by a fusion a structure that is known as pseudoplasmodium, what happens? They actually fuse, but when we talk internally the crossovers are present, which are not seen superficially, but if we see microscopically, this cell wall are present. Means whole cell have not lost its identity. They are just as it was, but they are in a group, they are in a community, they are in a gathering where if we look that particular pseudoplasmodium, then we will say that it is looking like a multinucleated body, but internally it is not multinucleated. Means amoeboid cells just gathered and form a pseudoplasmodium, means they have formed a community, they have not lost that cellular identity. Because of this, cellular slime mold are known as cellular, and in this, a pseudoplasmodium is formed by the community formation. So, because of this, it is also known as communal slime mold. Okay, so I hope you understood this. And if we talk about this particular cellular slime mold, then we can note down some of the examples like dictyostelium and polyspondylium. Okay, so this cellular slime mold are formed. So this is the type of slime mold and the characteristic. So dear students, we have studied in the slime mold that under favorable condition, slime molds form aggregation, the acellular slime mold that is known as plasmodium. It is diploid, it is a multinucleated body, and it formed in favorable condition. One of the important statement of the NCRT, that is formed in favorable condition. So that you should remember. Okay, this favorable word should be remembered. Then, during unfavorable condition, the plasmodium differentiated forms of fruiting bodies. These are the NCRT statements, so we are revising it again. Plasmodium differentiated blue fruiting bodies. And this fruiting body is bearing a spore at their tips. This is the job what we have studied just in the particular favorable condition. This we have seen, that is in case of the life cycle of acellular slime. The spore possess true cell wall, extremely resistant and survive for many years. That also we have studied. This is also a diagram of this cellular slime mold. Here we also studied that spore are dispersed by air current. Spores survive under extreme condition. We have studied also this. There is slime mold, the body moves along the decaying twigs and engulfing the organic material. It grow up to the several feet by the engulfing this material. Means plasmodium has ability to grow to the several feet. Okay, so this is what about the plasmodium. And after plasmodium, next we are going to talk about the protozoans. Next we are going to talk about the protozoans. Dear students, protozoans is the last group of kingdom Protista. And in this, you mark that this all protozoans are heterotrophs. One of the important bases of their classification into the separate group, that is the nutrition. They are completely heterotrophic. And you can see these are the diagram of some of the protozoans in this. You can see there is a one particular one that is known as Entamoeba histolytica. Then this Cryptosporium parvum. There is no need to remember this. Okay. Trypanosoma brucei, African sleeping sickness. Yes, trypanosoma you have to remember. Then Giardia lambda causes giardiasis. You can remember this also. Red blood cells infected by the Plasmodium falciparum that cause malaria. Then Leishmania, this is by the Leishmania, and the Toxoplasma gondii by the Toxoplasmosis. There is no need to remember. So these some of the examples which are important for this that we have marked. Now, next we talk that they live as a parasite. They live as a parasite or predator. Okay. Then these protozoans are believed to be primitive relatives of an elder. Students, this is one of the important statement which I have already asked in exam. So you should remember that they are believed to be primitive relatives of the animal. Dear students, remember what term is the term? Primitive, not advanced. Because sometimes they will ask you which of the following statements are correct and incorrect, and in that they write protozoans are believed to be advanced relatives of animals. Sometimes by mistake we make it true or correct statement, but it is incorrect. It should be like a primitive relatives, ancient relatives of the animal. Then it is known that these organisms do not contain a cell wall. They do not have a cell wall as well. And here protoplasm is surrounded by outermost covering, that is the plasma membrane. And these protozoans are classified into four major groups of protozoans. Dear students, some detailing of this particular protozoans about their life cycle will be dealt in the zoology chapter, that is human health and disease. But here we are going to talk about just four major types of protozoans. In this, we will be dealing about amoeboid protozoans. And you know that this is the amoeboid protozoan, this is the amoeba. So in amoeboid protozoans, we take an example of amoeba, and here you can see in amoeba the particular contractile vacuole is there, nucleus is there because it is a eukaryotic, plasma membrane is there, there is a formation of pseudopodia, they have mitochondria, food vacuole is also there, and cytoplasm is also there. So that is amoeboid protozoans. Then there is a flagellated protozoans. In flagellated protozoans, the motile structure is flagella, whereas in amoeboid protozoans, the motile structure was pseudopodia. Sorry, in flagellated protozoans, flagella is the locomotive organelle. Then we got talk about ciliated protozoans. The ciliated protozoans have a cilia like paramecium. You can see all over the body cilia are present. Then the last group we are going to study, that is sporozoans. And in sporozoans, plasmodium is present, and that plasmodium is particularly, we can say, nothing but a causative agent. Okay, a malarial parasite. Now, first we are going to talk about amoeboid protozoans. Dear students, amoeboid protozoans are the organisms, and this include what? Amoeba, and their shape is not fixed, you know that. So organisms live in a fresh water, sea water, and moist environment. Everywhere, these all three habitat they can be present. Then these protozoans use the phosphate pseudopodia. Now you have to remember this important thing. They have a phosphate, and that phosphate is known as pseudopodia, and this pseudopodia is used to capture the food. Apart from this capture food, that also help in locomotion or also help in movement. Okay, so this is they have flagella for locomotion. Actually, sorry, they do not have flagella for locomotion. Examples are amoeba, and we can see this is the diagram of amoeba. So the question usually in amoeba you will get that what is the function of pseudopodia or phosphate? So two functions are there: locomotion as well as capturing of the food. Some amoeboid protozoans are known to be parasites. Then some marine forms. This is the important statement of NCRT. We should mark important statement of NCRT. The marine forms of amoeba or amoeboid protozoans have a silica shells on their cell. Dear students, silica shells on their surface. But here on the surface of what? On the plasma membrane, they have silica shells. Same way we have also studied presence of silica shells in diatoms. So whenever the question is about silica cells, you should remember this amoeboid protozoans as well as the diatoms or chrysophytes. Then the flagellated protozoans is the next group. This organism under this group are either free living or parasitic. The parasitic forms cause disease. In this parasitic forms cause disease. And in this the locomotory organelle is flagella. And they cause some disease like sleeping sickness and that is caused by the trypanosoma. So this is the trypanosoma structure, but we need no need to go in this detailed structure. Just you remember that trypanosoma is a genus which is responsible for the sleeping sickness. Now in this one you should remember also that trypanosoma has a vector. It causes the sleeping sickness, but it has a vector. And vector is say fly. So you should remember that also. Then there is the next one is the ciliated protozoans. In ciliated protozoans, usually they are aquatic. These are the actively moving organisms because they have a presence of thousands of cilia over their whole body, and this all cilia show a coordinated movement. So ciliated protozoans, if we talk about their structure, they have a cavity gullet that opens to the outside of the cell surface. And in this ciliated protozoans, we will talk about the structure of particularly paramecium. Now, coordinated movement of rows of cilia occur causes the water laden in the food that passes inside a gullet. This gullet have a row, thousands of cilia, and they show coordinated movement. Because of this, water is passes inside the gullet. Example of ciliated protozoan is paramecium, and this is the structure of paramecium. Now, what I was saying you that gullet where it is present. Dear student, if you can see, they have this thousands of cilia over the all over the body. Okay, and within this, some trichocysts are also present. And in this, you will see this depression. This depression is over oral groove, and through this, the food passes inside. And when food passes inside, suppose this is a food moiety. This food passes inside in gullet. There is a presence of cilia like this on both the sides, and this cilia steers the food inside when this food reaches here. So that is the coordinated movement of the cilia of gullet which help the food to pass into the gullet. They have one of the important peculiarity of this paramecium is it has one large nucleus and one small nucleus, that is micronucleus. Okay, so this is the thing which, and they have also conducted vacuoles, so they are fresh water obviously. Now, this large nucleus help in transverse binary fusion, so it undergo amitosis. We remember amitosis is performed by large nucleus because that help in transverse binary fission. Okay, and that large nucleus is also known as macronucleus. And this micronucleus is a small nucleus. The last group is sporozoans. If this talk about sporozoans, this include diverse organisms that have an infective spore-like stages in their life cycle. And dear student, in this we are going to talk about example that is a malarial parasite that is a plasmodium and that cause malaria. The life cycle is given here that it completes its stages in the particularly human RBC, liver cells, okay, and some stages in the life in the particular Anopheles mosquito. So you will study this life cycle in detail during the human health and disease chapter. Okay, so this is with respect to the particularly protozoans, and it is the preliminary information according to NCRT. In a botany part, there is no need to go into too much detail. Only for protozoans, the NCRT content is more than enough that you have to remember. And detailing of some of the life cycle of some of the organism will be covered in human health and disease, so it will get covered. That is the zoology part. So let's talk about some of the questions. Single cell eukaryote are placed under, dear students, single cell eukaryotes are placed under, you know that this is the kingdom Protista because eukaryotic and single cell are placed in Protista. Next question, chrysophytes include, you know that chrysophytes include diatoms and desmids. So chlorella cannot be there, cyanobacteria, noctiluca are not possible because cyanobacteria is bacteria and noctiluca is a dinoflagellate. So diatoms is the correct answer. The dinoflagellates exhibit. So if we talk about the characteristic oxidation, bioeliminations, both 1 and 2 in palmilast, dear students, bioeliminations means emission of light during the night. So C glows at the night. That is caused due to the dinoflagellates. Then the kingdom without well-defined boundaries among constitutive organisms is. So the kingdom without well-defined boundaries constitutive organism like particularly we can say the Protista because they have a fungal, animal and plant-like characteristic organism. Protista include all unicellular eukaryotes. Fourth become correct answer. Desmids are known as golden algae in case of chrysophytes. Diatoms and desmids come under, they are obviously come under the chrysophyta group. Then the protists that are chief producer of ocean. This is the question which was asked in Neet. So we remember the chief producer of ocean are nothing but diatoms. That is given in NCRT. Rejuvenatory sexual spore formed by diatom are known as, dear students, we have studied that this is oxospore, particulate spore which is formed during the sexual reproduction. And it is known as a rejuvenation spore, a rejuvenatory spore, because this has an ability to form a diatom after a certain period of time. It can give rise to the diatom after some unfavorable conditions. So because of this, it is known as rejuvenatory spore. Then Kesselgar, the gritty soil used in polishing, filtration of oil and syrup is obtained from, you know that Kesselgar is also known as diatomite, diatomaceous earth, and it is the accumulated shells of diatoms at the base of the sea, so the diatoms become the correct answer. The diatoms are divided into two types based on the structure of symmetry. Yes, they can be divided into two types. That is a particularly symmetry. In this, they can be what bilateral. They have a bilateral symmetry, or they can have a radial symmetry. Protists called as whirling reefs are. So whirling reefs are dinoflagellates because dinoflagellates have a two flagella at right angle to each other. And when these two flagella which are present at right angle to each other, they particularly beat at the same time, then the spinning movement is observed in dinoflagellates and that is known as whirling whips. The nucleus of dinoflagellates is known as nucleus of dinoflagellates have a condensed chromosome in interface and that is known as mesokaryon. Marine dinoflagellates with bioluminescence is, we have studied this at the Noctiluca show of bioluminescence. Red tide in Mediterranean Sea are due to the rapid multiplication of In red tide, we have studied that also Conaiolex is responsible for the red tide. That is the dinoflagellates. Then cytostome, cytopharynx, and reservoir are the parts are found in. Yes, we have studied in case of euglenoids that they have a cytostome, that is mouth, cytopharynx, that is the gullet, and reservoir is the storing material, the base. Then palmilla stage is also found in case of the euglenoids. Okay, that is formed euglena, palmilla, and cyst are formed in unfavorable conditions. The outer coat of euglena is known as pellicle because cell wall is absent. Then an organism which is connecting link between the animals and plant is the connecting link between animal and plant is euglena. So because of this, why? Because it has a plant-like and animal-like characteristic, and because of this, it is also known as a plant animal. Then light sensitive structure of euglenoid is it is eye spot in paraflagellar body. Paraflagellar body is not given here. So eye spot, which is also known as stigma, that is a photosensitive structure, and it has one important pigment that is astaxanthin. Then the aggregation formed by a slime mold under suitable conditions. The aggregation is known as plasmodium, which is naked, which is diploid, which is without cell wall, and it is a multinucleated body, and it can spread out to the several feet. Then the protists believed to be primitive relatives of animals are slime mold, protozoans, euglenoids, and fungi. The protists believed to be primitive relatives of animals are, we know that these are the nothing but protozoans, and which include liquid, ciliated, flagellated protozoans. The parasitic amoeboid protozoan of the following parasitic amoeboid protozoan, if we talk, that is Entamoeba histolytica. Plasmodium is also a parasite, but Plasmodium in particular. Sleeping sickness is caused by the genus that is Trypanosoma. This Trypanosomiaceae is known. The parasite that causes sleeping sickness is flagellated protozoan, that is a Trypanosoma genus. Plasmodium, the malarial parasite, is sporozoan flagellated amoeboid protozoan. So you know that very well. It is a sporozoan and it is the most notorious malarial parasite. Then the only non-motile protozoan, if we talk, they are nothing but sporozoans, because in sporozoans the locomotory organelle is absent. What it is absent? The locomotory organelle is absent. So dear students, this is all about the protista, and we have discussed in this lecture about the slime mold and this protozoans in detail. We have also covered some of the questions. So this is all about the protista. So we have completed one era of protista. Now in next class we will be continuing with the kingdom fungi. Till that,